Okay guys, we're going to go through your checkups from Tuesday, and you're going to check your own answers here, and then after this, if you feel completely confident in learning targets 3, 4, and 5, then you can move on to the extension that the sub has. But if you feel even a little bit not confident, I want you to work on the rest of the slides today and get a lot of extra practice on solving these systems of equations. So we're going to go through these steps, or go through these answers, and then you'll have some extra additional practice. Most of them will be in the form of real-world problems, and then you can solve them any which way you choose, or you guys can decide as a class which way is best to solve them. So let's look at your blue sheets. These should be passed out to you. If anybody was gone Tuesday, you will need to take those so you can go out, or actually, how about you don't take them, you just follow along with us, and you can definitely get the extra practice since you weren't here on Tuesday. Okay, so we were asked in the first, this is learning target 3, asked to solve the system using substitution, which means we're going to take one of the equations and substitute it in for another variable. Here we have y equals on both of them, so you can take either equation. I could take 3x plus 7 and sub it in for this y, or 2x plus 3 and sub it in for that y. Either way, it's going to look like this. 3x plus 7 equals 2x plus 3. And then if I solve for x minus 2x from both sides, I have x plus 7 equals 3, so that means x equals negative 4. Okay, and then once I have that, I need to plug it back in and solve for y. So I'm going to take this equation. Y is going to equal 2 times negative 4 plus 3, so that's going to equal negative 8 plus 3. So my solution is going to be x is negative 4 and y is going to be negative 5. Okay, that's my solution there. Here, since x is isolated, we could either plug this, and y is isolated, we can plug this in here, or we can plug this in here. I'm going to choose to do it that way. I'm going to use the top equation and plug 3y in for x. So y equals 4 times 3y minus 12. So that's going to be y equals 12y minus 12. And what I'm going to do is subtract 12y from both sides. And that's going to give me negative 11y equals negative 12. So y is going to equal negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive 12 over 11. Okay? And then we can plug that in for y up here. So x is going to equal 3 times 12 plus, or 12 over 11. So that's going to equal 3 times 12 is 36 over 11. Okay, and so you can simplify those to mixed numbers, but our answer should be 36 elevenths over 12 elevenths. So that'd be 3 and 3 elevenths over, and 1 and 1 11th. Okay, moving on down here. We do have the y isolated, or we could easily get the x isolated as well if you want to do that. So let's take, though, and just plug in this y in for this y. Okay, so we're going to have x plus 1/2 x plus 3 equal 9. So that's 1.5 x's plus 3 equals 9. And then if we subtract 3 from both sides, we have 1.5x equals 6, and then divide by 1.5, and x equals 4. Okay, and then, but that's not my answer. I need to plug it back in here. If x equals 4, then 4 plus y is going to equal 9, so my answer is 4 5. Okay. And last one here using substitution, we have x isolated, so I'm going to take 2y plus 1 and sub it in for this x here. And if we get that, we have 6y minus 2 times the quantity 2y plus 1 equals 10. Now I'm going to have to distribute. So negative 2 times 2y is negative 4y, and a negative 2 times 1. I bet a lot of us didn't take the negative 2 times 1. And that's going to be a negative 2 equals 10. Add 2 to both sides. And we have 6y minus 4y is 2y equals 12. So that means y equals 6. Plug that back in. Let's say we plug it in here. Then x is going to equal 2 times 6 plus 1. And so x is going to equal 12 plus 1 is 13. So our point should be 13, comma 6. Okay, so go ahead and give yourself a score for learning target 3 using substitution. And then let's move on to elimination. Okay, so eliminating, this first one is set up really nice. Remember, we want to get a coefficient of one of the two variables, positive and negative, the same value. Okay, so we have positive 4x's and negative 4x's in these two equations. So I'm going to just right away add these together, and positive 4x, negative 4x is going to be 0. So we get rid of the x's, we eliminate those. And then we have 8y equals 16. If we divide by 8, we have y equals 2. Okay, and so then if we plug that back into either one of these, we could use the first one, 4x plus 2 times 2 is our y equals negative 8. Then we're going to have 4x plus 4 equals negative 8, and if we subtract 4 from both sides, then we have 4x equals negative 12, and x should equal negative 3. So we have negative 3, 2 as our solution there. All right, this one's not so nice, but I see here we already have a positive and a negative variable, so if I get this to 6y, positive 6y, then I can eliminate the y's in this. So I'm going to go ahead, take this first equation times a negative 6, and I'm going to just, or not a negative 6, excuse me, times 6, and just write it down here. So 6 times 2x would give me 12x, 6 times y would give me 6y, and 6 times 1 would give me 6. So then, adding these two equations together, we have 3x and 12x gives us 15x. Negative 6y and 6y is 0, so those cancel. And 39 plus 6 is 45. Divide by 15, and x is going to be 3 there. And then we need to plug that back in, so I'm going to use one of my two original equations, and let's say I put it in for the first one. 2 times 3 plus y is going to equal 1. So 6 plus what? Y equals 1. Well, that's going to be y is a negative 5. So our answer here is 3, negative 5. Okay, final one here. We're going to have to change both of these, or manipulate both of these equations. I do see a negative and a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the y's. To get those to the same number, we have a common factor of, or a common multiple of 6. So I'm going to multiply this top one times 2, and this bottom one times 3. And my top equation will turn into 10x minus 6y equals negative 20. My bottom equation will turn into 6x plus 6y equals negative 60. Okay, and then add those together. We have 16x and 0 y's, because those cancel, will give us negative 80. Divide by 16, and that should be a negative 5. Okay, plugging that back in, let's use the second equation. 2 times a negative 5 plus 2y is going to be negative 20. So that's going to be negative 10 plus 2y equals negative 20. So that's 2y, add 10 to both sides, equals negative 10. And again, y equals negative 5. So our point here is going to be negative 5, comma, negative 5. All right, and that is using the elimination method. Go ahead and score yourself on that one, and we will move on to the real world context problems. All right, so Cody is leaving his house traveling straight west at 65 miles per hour. 2 hours later, Kyle leaves for the same house heading straight west 80 miles per hour. When Kyle catches up to Cody, how far away from home will they be? When will Kyle catch up to Cody? So define variables. Well, I'm seeing miles per hour. So I'm thinking that's going to be 65x. And so that would make x time in hours. Okay. And then we're talking about the distance Kyle and Cody are. So y is going to be the distance from their house. Okay. In miles. Okay, so then we're asked to write a linear system. Well, Cody is pretty straightforward. He is traveling at 65 miles per hour, so each hour he gets 65 miles further from his house. Okay, now Kyle, and this is tricky, this might be where some of you slipped here. Kyle leaves 2 hours later, okay? So a lot of you might have thought that Kyle is 80x, because he's going 80 miles per hour, plus 2. Or minus 2. But that's not the case because he's 2 hours later. So we have to think about how far did Cody go in those 2 hours. Okay? So Cody's driven 2 hours at 65 miles per hour. That's 130 miles, right? So we can either have Cody be, or Kyle, I should label these, be minus 180. Or we can put positive 130, excuse me, or positive 130 on Kyle's because he's getting a 130-mile head start in those 2 hours. And then we're asked to find the solution. So the best method I think here is substitution. So if we just set it up, 65x equals 80x minus 130, then we're going to subtract 80x from both sides, and we're going to get negative 15x equals negative 130, okay, and 130, let me check here, divided by 15 will give us, and this is a negative divided by a negative, then x is going to equal negative divided by a negative 8.6 repeating. Okay. Then if we use that to plug in, and we're going to get some estimates because we're just going to use decimals here. If we plug that in to, let's say, Cody's, so y is going to equal 65 times 8.6 repeating. That is going to be y equals 563.3 repeating. Okay, so that means x is 8.6 repeating and y is 563.3 repeating. That means that after 8 hours and 0.6, 6/10 of a mile, or 2/3 of a mile, they're going to meet. So it's going to be a while before Kyle catches up with Cody, and it's going to be after 563.3 miles that he does so. Okay, so let's turn the page around and talk about Prairie Point. This is a little different type of system. Decides to sell shirts to raise money for a field trip. They sell t-shirts for $10, sweatshirts for $20. They end up selling 200 items total. Here's where I like to highlight what I'm given. So we have $10, $20 for sweatshirts. T-shirts and sweatshirts are what we're after here. 200 total, and they raise $2,450. Okay. Determine the number of t-shirts. So unknown, number of t-shirts, and the number of sweatshirts, unknown. So we're going to say X is the number of tees, and Y is the number of sweats sold. Okay? And then so we have to write a system here. Well, I know that together they sold 200. So just plain X plus Y is going to equal 200 total items. And then if we talk about their profit, they get $10 from each of these X's and $20 from each of these Y's, and that together raised $2,450. Okay, now you can choose to solve this any way you like. If you want to do elimination or substitution, I'm going to try elimination. I'm going to take this equation and I'm going to multiply it by a -10 and get rid of my 10 or my x's there. So I'm going to turn my system into -10x, -10 times x plus -10y is going to equal -2,000. Okay, and then I'm going to add that to 10x plus 20y equals 2,450. And that together, x's are going to cancel out. We're going to have 10y's equal 450 because -2,000 and positive 2,450 divide by 10, and y is going to equal 45. Okay, so that was pretty easy. And then we need x plus y, so x plus 45, to equal 200. So if we minus 45 from both sides, then x should equal 155. So we're going to sell 155 t-shirts, and we're going to sell 45 sweatshirts. And that will satisfy each of our two equations. Okay, so go ahead and rate yourself on the real world context. This might be the one where people most struggled. So if you didn't do well, go ahead and rate yourself low and then stay here with the sub for some additional practice problems. Okay, so now if you feel extremely confident in all three learning targets, then you can go ahead and get the sub to give you the extension. Otherwise, you're going to move on and do some more practice problems here.